Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Sunday, January the 30th, 2022. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here to go over the entire NBA 8-game slate for today's action. We are covering here at Coach Talk the all three slates we're going to be providing for. We've got a three-game early slate on FanDuel and on Draftkings. Then we have a 5-game main slate on those same two, and a 4-game main slate on Yahoo that starts an hour later. So if you're looking for any of those, if you play DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo, we are the place to go. We'd love to have you join us, dfscoachtalk.com. Just jump on there. We have several different memberships, all the way from a 3-day $10 to several other options for you that are available. So great to have you. Good morning. It's NFL Championship Sunday. That's going to get everybody buzzing today. So wanted to get this podcast out there for the NBA so everybody has a chance to look at it here this morning and get those lineups scheduled so you can play some good contests. I love these huge NFL important days because we get a lot of NFL players leaking over playing some NBA. So we welcome some of those new folks to the table for sure. So it's going to be a fun day. Great slate, lots of news, lots of questions. First and second nights of back-to-backs, some injury, big questionable names. But we're going to go over all of it, and we're going to adjust and go forward. We did last night. We had to make those moves on the run. When Harden got knocked out of there, we made sure and adjust different lineups, and we had a really solid basketball night. It was fun, though, for once of being on the correct end of a stats correction. I thought I had lost by less than a point and finished second, and stat correction hit. Boom, popped back up over top at just by like 0.2 and had a takedown. So that was always fun. It hurts when you're on the other side of those, but man, it's found money when you're on the good side of them. So good stuff. Let's keep this good positive mojo going today, and let's dive right into this slate. All right, here we go. We've got this 3-game early slate. There's 2 1:00 games and a 3:30 game. We're going to be, as I said, providing for that early only slate for DraftKings and FanDuel. First game, second game, and third game are all big numbers. So it's weird. We got the early slate with some really big numbers, a couple decent ones in the evening as well, but just odd to get 3 high totals here. First game, Charlotte Hornets hosting the LA Clippers. Charlotte's favored by 6. It is a 224.5 total. 109.25 implied for the Clippers, 115.25 for the Charlotte Hornets. Coming into this game, these are 2 teams that can score the ball. We know that much for sure, and we're going to get that right off the bat. The Clippers are 25-26. The Hornets are 28-22. We have a questionable designation on Nicholas Batum. We already know that George Leonard and Preston are out. For Charlotte, 1 question mark there. The Mr. Oubre is questionable, and we know Gordon Hayward and Jalen McDaniels are both out for the Hornets. If we look at some of the numbers here, it is the first night of a back-to-back for the Clippers, so that's a bit of a concern there. And Charlotte, it is an island game. Pace, Clippers 14th, Hornets are 2nd. So you've got nice pace up for the Clippers and still a decent pace overall for the game. Defensively, Clippers are 7th. They've really hung in there defensively. Charlotte, 25th. So they are a bit of a struggle. A lot of good options. Again, when you're looking at it as a 3-game early slate, you approach it a little bit differently, obviously, than a large slate. So you got to start taking a look at a couple of these options here. As far as on the Clippers side, Batum at 4.7, Coffee at 5.2, Reggie Jackson 5.3, Zubats even at 4.5, and Marcus Morris at 6.1. Everybody's cheap, or nobody's even in that mid-level pricing. The problem is you just don't know what you're going to get. They're all chopping it up. Even Luke Kennard at 5.1, Terrence Mann 3.9, Eric Bledsoe 4.4. Those guys have all had a big impact. And Serge Ibaka off the bench as well at 3.3. So what I have to say here is, it's one of those deals where you're scratching the scratch off here to figure out which one is a good play. And you look at the matchups with the Hornets. Yeah, it's a good matchup for the Clippers because, the Hornets play fast and they don't play defense. But it is risky, because you can also take any of those guys that I mentioned and they can have, a 15 or something. So that is my biggest concern. I would say I wouldn't mind having one player, one off from the Clippers. And for me right now, it's between Reggie Jackson, Amir Coffey, and probably Nicholas Batum. Not thrilled with any of them, but that's who it would be at this point. All right, the Charlotte Hornets side, you've got 8.8 LaMelo Ball, sort of expensive there. But, on a 3-game slate, he could be the high scorer on the slate. It's possible. Terry Rozier, $1,100 cheaper at 7.7. Cody Martin's been playing good ball in Gordon Hayward's absence. He's only 4.5. Definitely, can pay that off. Ceiling is a question. How well can he do on that side of it is a good, is a little bit of a concern. Miles Bridges at 8K is a fair price for the way he's been playing. Certainly can take over a game. Gets interior defense from Morris, Batum, and Zubac. So not the biggest smash spot for Bridges, but certainly somebody I'm going to consider if I can fit in that salary. Off the bench, PJ Washington has been up and down like he usually is. Good GPP play because he does have a decent ceiling for a 4.8 guy off the bench. All right, sip of coffee, and we're going to get on to game 2. All right, game 2. It's the other LA team, the LA Lakers, at the Atlanta Hawks, also a 1 o'clock game. So we have dueling early games here. Atlanta's favored by 7.5. It's a 226 total. So another solid total. 109.25 for the Lakers, 116.75 for the Atlanta Hawks. Lakers come in 2 games below 500, 24 and 26. Atlanta, same thing, 23 and 25, 2 games below 500. So these two teams are both scrapping. Probable tags on Westbrook and Monk. So that is really a good thing to know. Questionable tag on Anthony Davis, which is the most important news of these 2 1 o'clock early games. And we will have that before lock. So that'll be good to know because it does change everything with this squad. We do know that LeBron is out and Nunn is out. So getting that AD news will be able to pretty much help the build on that side of the ball. But we have the same unknowingness here on the Atlanta side of the ball with Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter questionable. So definitely need that news as well. Very hard to say, where do you go in this game without that news. But I'll just say real quickly that if Davis is out, I think Westbrook is a real pretty much automatic play for me in the early 3-game slate here, just from usage and the whole 9 yards. On the other side, if Trae and Hunter are out, let's just say it brings a lot of other opportunities into play here. Kevin Huerter, John Collins, even a Clint Capella, those guys all in play, and we can look towards that bench as well. But, those are the interesting parts of those builds there, or who's in and who's out, because there's a couple other guys too from Atlanta that would have to be into consideration, including Bogdanovich, maybe even Gallinari, because those guys would have to step up. So we'll find out what that news is and go from there. It is the first night of a back-to-back for Atlanta, so that's probably what they're trying to decide with Young and Hunter. Do they want to sit them today or do they want to sit them tomorrow? There is no game for the Lakers tomorrow, so if AD can play, I think he's going to go, and if he goes, I think he's a great play. I mean, he showed the other day, unbelievably, he came in and just smashed the slate basically after a pretty long layoff, so definitely have to consider him if he's in. The Lakers are third in pace, and Atlanta is 19th. Defensively, the Lakers are 15th and Atlanta 27th. So good pace game, good 226 total, and certainly not tearing it up defensively on either side. All right, the third game of that early slate, it is the Portland Trailblazers and the Chicago Bulls. Chicago's favored by 6.5. Another, like I say, all three of them are good, 229 totals. 111.25 for Portland, 117.25 for the Chicago Bulls. Portland comes in 21-28, Chicago 30-18. We have probable tags on Powell and Covington. They're on the first night of a back-to-back tonight, but you would think Powell and Covington, if they are going to sit one, would probably sit the game tomorrow. And want to take on Chicago here. So we will follow that news. Chicago's on an island game, by the way. The guys that are, the other guy that's probable for Portland is Dennis Smith. So he may be back in that guard rotation. The guys that are out, CJ Ellaby, Lillard, Little, Nance, Zeller. For Chicago, we've got 4 guys out. We already know their scenario. It's Ball, Caruso, Jones, and Williams. So an interesting set of circumstances here in this game. There's definitely some good things to like and some things you want to question. We've got 18th and 15th in pace are these two teams. So that at a 229 total is a little surprising that you've got just average to below average pace. But defensively is where the issue is. Portland's third worst in the league at 28th, and Chicago has gone way down. They're 18th now. They were in the top 10 before. So I guess Vegas is going with the trend here. More points these teams are letting up, in recent games really affect this total line. But where do you go here? Of course, you've got the backcourt of Simons at 7, McCollum at 7.5, both in play, a good price. Powell's priced well at 6.1. Covington back in, if he's a go completely and ready to roll, 5.5 is a very fair price. Vuk is 8.2, so not sure, or Nurk, I should say. He goes against Vuk. Nurk's 8.2, Vuk's 9.3. So there you go. Those two guys, definitely possibilities, not the first 2 spots I'm going here, though. I like some of the value on the other 4 players from Portland. On the Chicago side, we have Dosunmu, who at 5.7, who has shown some real promise in minutes played and results. He sort of broke the slate a couple days ago. He's definitely somebody that you have to start considering here. Zach LaVine at 8.5 and DeMar DeRozan at 8.9. Both pretty big commitments. Having one of the two, I think, is a very smart move, and I don't think you can go wrong in either direction. I usually lean DeRozan. Today, I lean a little bit LaVine. I just like the defensive matchup better. Javonte Green's back, but he's splitting time. We're getting Kobe White and Brown and Cook and those guys in there. So really, Dosunmu, LaVine, DeRozan are my main targets there, and then Simons, McCollum, and Powell on the other side. So definitely 3-gamer. Want to have a nice chunk of exposure to this one. All right, we go to game 4, and this happens to be the 5-game main slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. So you're going to have this 5-gamer. Those should be the best contests, the best options. for what you want to go after here. And it starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, as most of the slates do, just on Sundays. All right, so we've got the first one, the only game at 6 actually this week. It is the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Detroit Pistons. Cleveland's favored by 7.5. It's a 210.5 total, 109 implied for Cleveland, 101.5 for the Detroit Pistons. Cleveland comes in at a really impressive 30-19, coming off a real big win. Detroit 11-37. Now, this game really screams of, Cleveland let up, looking past it. I know a lot of people will probably want to check this game out and look at it as a possible blowout. And I get that. Cleveland's way better than Detroit right now. But, whenever you've got a team, Cleveland's on the first night of a back-to-back. They just came off a big win. They are going to have to travel to Detroit. And I've seen this as a coach too many times. As many times as you tell your players, hey, you got to play this game, they lace them up just like you do. I think they're going to come out a little flat. So I think this game stays close, and I'm going to be utilizing this game more so than I think most people in this late build. Let's look at the designations first. Cleveland's pretty simple. Lauri Markkanen is out. And then for Detroit, you have a questionable tag on Josh Jackson. The guys that are remain out, Grant, Livers, and Olynyk. So, as I said, there's a lot of things to like in this game. 24th in pace for Cleveland is not one of them, but 11th in pace for Detroit, definitely strong. Cleveland, we know, terrific defensively. They're third in the league. Detroit is down at 23. So let's look at some options here. I think you have a very fair price Darius Garland at 8.6. I think he should be over 9. So that's one spot I'd like to look at. Evan Mobley at 7.4 and Jared Allen at 7.5. I like both of them at those mid-range prices. They both can make their number. I'm not going to play both, but I think going with Garland and one of the bigs here, Mobley or Allen, seems like a nice play because, again, I said I think Cleveland's going to take this game for granted a little bit. And why that's a good thing for us if we're going to roster guys in this game is it would keep it very close. Because Cleveland's 7.5-point favorite, which is a decent number, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that think this game could blow out. And I think it stays close enough that we're going to get full run from our main guys. Off the bench, Love at 6.2 is another perfectly fine option. He's been awesome lately. And then on the Detroit side, I have some similar interest here. Not quite as much because of the Cleveland defense, but certainly enough to get my attention. Cade Cunningham, 7.2 is fair the way he's been playing. A little inconsistent because he's a rookie, but his ceiling is just out of sight all of a sudden, and he's really getting it done. Diallo's all the way down under 5K. He's only 4.9. I know his minutes and production have plummeted in the last 2.5 weeks, but he's still worth a last guy in type situation because you never know when Diallo is going to throw 35 DFS point game on the board. Sadiq Bey also possible at 6.1. He is probably going to get a tough defensive matchup against Mobley, but his price is fair. Isaiah Stewart at a really cheap 4.5. Can he battle against those bigs? That would be the question. But at that price, if you're really trying to build somewhere else, you've got some options. So I will have exposure to this game. I think it's better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. All right, there's 4 games left, 2 at 7, and then 1 and 2 at 8. So we've got an early finish to the night again tonight. I know when these games are on, a lot of people are going to be watching NFL, but there will be some, free money in some of these contests in the NBA for people looking for action there that are playing the NFL. So, I'm going after these games. I'll be watching basketball and have the football game on as well. So it's a fun night that way. And I'm glad I don't have to sweat golf tonight. We kicked butt in golf, man. The weekend only was fantastic. Really good top 3% finishes, a takedown. It was a great PGA week, but I'm hats off to them for finishing on Saturday so they could avoid this crazy day with football. But yeah, it's really crazy. But I'll tell you, it threw me off though. Watching the final round of a golf tournament, it's so ingrained in your brain that it's a Sunday that I just could not keep it straight that it was Saturday. I took my garbage out. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's not till tomorrow. But that's what it'll do to you when you're used to watching something on a specific day all the time. All right. This 4-game slate is the main slate on Yahoo because they're starting at 7, and we will be providing, both a cash hybrids and GPP lineup for Yahoo as well. All right. We've got the first 7 o'clock game. Milwaukee Bucks hosting the Denver Nuggets. Milwaukee's favored by 7. It's a 227.5 total. 110.25 for Denver. 117.25 for the Milwaukee Bucks. Denver comes in 27-21. Milwaukee 31-30. Probable tag on Will Barton, and that's an important piece for them. DeMarcus Cousins, also probable to back up the Joker. Guys that are out, Canchar, Murray, and Porter. For Milwaukee, it's a little simpler here. You've got probable tag on Rodney Hood. Looks like they're going to be without George Hill. He's doubtful. I'm counting him out. And we know Brook Lopez has been out for quite some time. So statistically, both teams on a island game here, important game against each other. Denver's 23rd in pace, Milwaukee's 9th. So not getting a whole lot out of that. It is a pace-up game, certainly for Denver. Defensively, Denver's 18th and Milwaukee's 9th. So, again, similar situation, a little bit better D on the Bucs side. But there are some good plays here up and down. There's some good value. We've got, if you really want to go on the cheap, Monty Morris, but he is splitting time. You're getting Bones Highland in there. Austin Rivers has been on fire for them. And then, of course, Bryn Forbes is scooping some minutes at guard now that he's there. So the whole, mix with Morris and Barton, really not interested in the guards from Denver, especially when you have pretty stout defense in Drew Holiday on the other side of the ball. Jeff Green is, sometimes at 3.9, you can make a play there if you pick him on the right day. This is against Middleton and Giannis, though, so a little bit tougher. Aaron Gordon, I do respect his defense at 6K, and that's why I'm probably not going to go with Giannis today. I know that sounds nuts, but I just think, with the way Middleton and Portis and Holiday are playing, they have Grayson Allen back, and then that deep bench with Connaughton, DiVincenzo. I just think that there are a few other spots I'd prefer to pay up for, but I am very impressed with the way Giannis has played, as always. But there's, I'm probably going to go elsewhere on my pay up. Portis at 6.5 still in play, though. Question is on the other side of the ball, the Joker at 12.4. Do you go there? It's the same scenario. For me, I'm probably not going to do that either. And I think this game is going to be massively owned. I mean, you've got Spider-Man versus Spider-Man here, Joker and Giannis, the top 2 scorers in DFS this season, and they're going against each other. So I'm looking at, canceling each other out, as crazy as that sounds. I think you're going to see most rosters that are teams built here are going to have one of those 2 guys in there. I do think it's going to be a good game. I think Milwaukee's the better team right now, and they're healthier. But let's see how this plays out. I'm going to look more at the secondary guys. I think Gordon, Middleton, Portis, I think those are key guys that really could squeeze in the lineup. I do want some exposure. It is a 227.5 total, but I'm not going to go to the 2 big guys here. So that's going to be my contrarian stand as far as this game. Now, if they both, have 80 each fantasy points, hey, it was fun. but I'm hoping even if they both throw a 50 on the board, that's not really going to get it done, because the salary that you're spending in this game is going to leave you pretty poor the rest of the game. So we'll see how that strategy goes for now. But I think it's pivotal in how this entire slate goes. All right. The other 7 o'clock game is the Dallas Mavericks at the Orlando Magic. It's the second night of a back-to-back for Dallas. Island game for Orlando. Dallas is favored by 5.5. It's only a 211.5 total. 108.5 Dallas, 103 for Orlando. Dallas is up to 8 games over 500 at 29-21. And Orlando's a cool 30 games below 500 at 10-40. Porzingis, it says questionable, but I'm going to tell you he is out. He did not travel with the team to Orlando and will not play today. As far as the other guys that are out for Dallas, Sterling Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr. For Orlando, only guys mentioned here that are out, MCW, Fultz, Hampton, Isaac, and Moore, that same group. So a couple of things here. We know Dallas plays super slow. Their second slowest team in the league at 29th. Orlando's 12th. So as always, it's a bit of a pace-up game for Dallas. Nothing phenomenally drastic. Dallas is 5th in defense. Orlando 22nd. So it does open up some possibilities here. You've got some interesting situations. How much is Luka going to dominate this game without Porzingis in there? And he's playing well, and Orlando doesn't really have the defender to match him. I know it's a back-to-back, and I know there's a potential for blowout here, but it's only a 5.5-point spread. And I think Luka is a great play. And again, I'm not because Dirk's whispering in my ear over here about Luka. I just think it's a good spot. I mean, when Porzingis is out, you've got a lousy defensive team in Orlando, and the spread is supposed to stay, in that 5.5 number, even if it's 9 or something. I think it's a great play. I haven't read anything that Luka is going to play limited minutes. He looked fine yesterday. So let's see what happens. But as of right now, Luka is one of my key buy-ups at 11-2. A couple other guys I think are very playable. Brunson at 6-2. Kleba at 3-7 is a possibility. He's going to get a nice extra bump with Porzingis being out. I would say don't chase the Reggie Bullock game. He went ballistic yesterday. He's 3-6, and it's going to be tempting, but I would not chase that. I think it was just a red-hot shooting game. I like Bullock, but not somebody I'm going to jam right into my lineups. For me, it's Doncic, Brunson, and then a cheaper option of Kleba. On the Orlando side, I think you have great prices. All 5 guys that start for Orlando make my potential player pool. Cole Anthony, 6'6", Jalen Suggs, 5'9", Franz Wagner, 5'7", Wendell Carter Jr., 6'3", and Mo Bamba, 5'6". All outstanding priced, and I'm definitely going to have some coverage here. This could end up being a key game for me, and I know everybody's probably yelling at their computer or phone or whatever they're listening to me on and saying, Coach, this is the second lowest game on the board. It's 211.5. I get that, and I see the implied totals and everything. It just feels like a game that can be a higher scoring game. With Dallas on the second night of a back-to-back, Porzingis, who really has been, as much as I dog the guy, and he does miss a million games, he has been the reason, a big part of the reason the Dallas defense has climbed to where it is. He has been protecting the rim and doing some things in the paint that he hadn't done in Dallas since he had come here. So, losing that interior and then having to go against 2 centers basically in Carter and Bamba, man, I'm interested to see how that's going to work out. And I do think Dallas is by far the better team. So, bumpering Luka with one of the Mavericks value and then grabbing two of those guys from Orlando of those starting five. And I think you could get Carter Jr. and Bomba there if you put them together. But it seems like Suggs has been the guy lately that's stepping it up. And then we know, obviously, I've played Cole Anthony so much this year. He has the potential of always having a real ceiling game. So I like this game. Call me crazy, but I think this game has some nice potential. And I will have exposure. All right, there's two 8 o'clock games. San Antonio Spurs, Phoenix Suns. Phoenix by 12.5. So blowout alert here, 228.5 total. That is pretty darn nice. Second highest total on the board. We know these San Antonio games have been high scoring lately. We've got, again, 12.5 point favoritism. Little concern there. We've got 108 for San Antonio. And how about the fact we never see this very often lately? 120.5 for Phoenix. That is a big total right there for one squad. San Antonio comes in 19-31. Phoenix 39-9. 30 games over 500. Amazing. As far as guys that are out for the Spurs, Bates, Jop, Murray, Pirtle, and White. So, pow, you've got 4 guys there. Murray, their best player by a mile. Their starting center in Pirtle, and then their best shooting guard in White. So you're going to have value galore in San Antonio with those guys out. For Phoenix, questionable tags on Crowder and Ayton, so it's going to be important news. McGee is also questionable, so we've got to figure that one out. We know Kaminsky, Nader, Payne, and Saric are out. Statistically speaking here, we've got San Antonio 5th in pace and Phoenix 10th, so that's why you have almost the highest total on the board. San Antonio's 20 defensively and Phoenix 2nd in the league on defense. This is the game that I feel is going to blow out, and I think we're going to lose key minutes for Paul and Booker. Therefore, I'm not going to go there. I don't know what the center situation is going to be. If Ayton is out and if McGee is out, then Biyombo is going to get the majority of the minutes there at 5'8". You can also consider Jalen Smith at 3'5". If you feel he's going to get decent enough minutes in the blowout, I think he would get all those blowout minutes. So Jalen Smith's on my board at a sneaky 3.5 for a guy that has shown when he's gotten the minutes, he can perform. So I know a lot of people argue this point, don't predict blowouts. And I've seen it go different ways, absolutely. But I game script everything as our members know. And, I'm going to play guys that I think are going to get those minutes, get that usage and be in there. And it just does not look like a game that I don't think San Antonio can stay in. Their projected starters right now are Jones, Vassell, McDermott, Johnson, and Eubanks. No, that isn't going to work in Phoenix against that team. Will Phoenix have a let up? Maybe, but Monty's pretty good about getting them ready and up for every game. So in a blowout, Spurs, if it happens, they'll use Lonnie Walker and Primo and Lindell, Young, Hernan Gomez, who knows? So not crazy about that side of the ball. Somebody has to score it for them, and somebody's going to have to take a lot of shots. Devin Vassell at 4-1 is one of the guys that I think is worth really talking about because, he's shown that he can have some ceiling games along the way. Same thing with Trey Jones at the dead min 3K. Just having one of these super value plays from the Spurs really helps, I think, your build. And then for me, again, on the other side, it's pretty much just Biyombo if he's the only center left standing. Maybe Cam Johnson gets a little extra run at 5'9", Landry Shamet at 3'6", and then, of course, Elfrid Payton at 3K would be another guy that you could think would get some extra run in a blowout. But I'm not going to put many of my chips into this bucket. I think it's going to be pretty highly owned. And I just think this game blows out and sets up for some really disappointing totals. So it is what it is. You got to have some courage, some guts, and stick to your guns You can't just lollygag around and say, well, this game, that game. I mean, there's not a lot of touts out there that would say, hey, the Mavericks Orlando game at 211.5 is a better game to play than the Spurs Suns at 228.5. But that's what I'm going to say. So I could be wrong. Absolutely could be wrong. But that's the trends that I see. That's, putting the coaching and eye test and all those pieces into it of, coaching tendencies, team tendencies on back-to-backs and island games against double-digit spreads. I've looked into all the analytics and statistics to this, as I always do, and that's just what I see. I see a little bit of a different trend, and I think it could give us a major edge tonight, so I'm excited about it. All right, last game, Utah Jazz, Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, it's also at 8 o'clock. This one is definitely interesting. Utah by 1, 226.5 total, 113.75 for Utah, 112.75 for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Utah comes in at 30-20. Timberwolves below 500 again somehow with that sharp lineup. They're 24-25. Big question here, is Donovan Mitchell going to play? He's questionable. We have to have that news, or we're going to have to set up some late swap pivot if we're going to use him. Forrest, the guard, backup guard Trent Forrest, is also questionable, but we do know Rudy Gobert is out once again. For the Minnesota side, same two guys, and big question here. Patrick Beverley and D'Angelo Russell, both questionable. And also Josh Okogie, who sort of slipped out of the rotation. So it's an important news game. You can't build or really give great advice here unless you know if Mitchell, Beverly, and Russell are in. I will say Utah's 17th in pace, Minnesota 4th. So they're going to get up and down in this game. And neither team tearing it up as much defensively as you would have expected in some of their results. Utah is only 12th. And Minnesota's 16th. So somewhat average defensive prowess here for these two teams. I do think there's a lot of potential, though. If Mitchell's in, I think he's a good play if he's playing with no restrictions. If Mitchell's out, then, Conley, Bogdanovich, and O'Neal come into play. Hassan Whiteside's still a center option with Gobert out. He's at 6'4". Also, if Mitchell's out, it really brings Clarkson and Ingles into the mix. Clarkson's a little pricey at 6'7", Ingles at 4'5". But that's really the rotation of guys that I would look at there. And I would like to have some exposure depending on the Mitchell news. On the Minnesota side, it's pretty easy. If Beverly and Russell are in, let's say they're both in, I look more as D'Angelo Russell, if he's playing with no minutes restriction, is an option. If they're both out, Anthony Edwards becomes your top play, along with Cat at 9.3. If I looked over DRPM for Hassan Whiteside, everybody thinks he's a great defender. He's not. He's ranked very low in guarding centers. So my other pay up in this slate tonight in the main slate is Karl Anthony Towns. He's only 9.3, which is a lower price for him. I think this is a perfect matchup against Whiteside. I think people really believe Whiteside's a great defender and may not play Cat, but Cat's my go-to. Probably leaning right now, if the slate locked in 5 minutes, to Luka and Cat as my two pay-ups. And again, 9.3 I think is a discount. Jared Vanderbilt has been solid at 5.2. He can also be considered if either or of the Beverly Russell happen to be out. You'll get Jaden McDaniels at a real cheap 3.4, probably slide into that starting lineup. And then also, if they're both out, definitely Jalen Noel becomes a strong play for me at a cheap 4.1. So it does look sort of stars and scrubbish for me on the main slate. It's just playing out that way, like a lot of slates happen to do lately with all the value news. So we've already got a bunch of solid plays and value, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot more news as the day goes on. So that is it, my friends. I hope this really helped you on your Sunday build for the NBA. Tomorrow's going to be a really fun day. We're doing the podcast with my good buddy Gundacker is going to come over and join me. So we'll have that podcast up tomorrow morning. It's a really good 8-game evening slate where all three DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo all have their 8-game main slate in the evening. So look forward to doing that podcast with Gundacker. He always has some great information to throw into the mix. So definitely catch us for that one. It should post by around 10:30, 11 a.m., right in that neighborhood on Monday. But today's a great day. Enjoy these football games, the multiple fantastic championship games. They should be so exciting. And then, of course, the multiple slates here in the NBA. You can get some good early action in and some good evening main slate. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate everybody. If you have a chance, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, click the little alert in the upper corner so you know when our podcast posts. If you can drop a couple of words, that really helps us on the algorithm as well. So like to get a couple more Hollises out there so we gets pumped up here on YouTube and work up that algorithm. So we really do appreciate that. If you want to join us, cannot beat the great deals we have right now. We'd love to have you in the family. Go to dfscoachtalk.com. All of your membership options are right there. All right. Thank you again. Have a fantastic Sunday. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the basketball. Enjoy your family. So have a great one, and we'll be back tomorrow again when we look to crush it in DFS.